we start with a roll call? Barbara?
Barbara Barosa.
James Meyer.
Aziz Asa.
Norma Drummond?
Tara Franco.
All right, with a full board, I'm going to ask everybody to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, there are some slight adjustments to our agenda this evening. For public information, items number 5 and 8 are being pulled altogether. We've been requested to hold those off until the May meeting. Item number 7 is on only for a refund. The only items on this evening for public comment are items number 1, 2, and 3. There's no other item on for public comment tonight. At the appropriate time, we will advertise for public comment related to any of the other applications. At the appropriate time, we will ask if you as neighbors have any information about these sites or about the interpretation we're going to discuss this evening that would be helpful to the board's review of the requests. Otherwise, the reviews, in some cases, we're seeing them a second time, but for the most part, most of these applications are really the first time the board is reviewing them, and so this is our opportunity during the review to kind of work through what we see as potential issues and/or concerns, and sometimes we have the applicants come back and address those concerns before we go to public hearing. We do have our next meetings would be Tuesday, May 12th, and Tuesday, June 9th. We do have one set of minutes to approve. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of March 10th as amended?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we're going to go right into our discussion for the evening. So we have item number 1 is an adjourned public hearing, Appeal 3618 Meyer, William C. Meyer, 4 Spring Meadow Lane, Hopewell Junction, is requesting a 45-foot rear line variance for a proposed 11-foot by 16-foot garden shed pursuant to Section 194-107 of the zoning ordinance. All right, we've seen this now for a long time, but because of some title issues related to this property and the property immediately behind it, the applicant and his neighbor have been working with their title company. We did get letters from both the applicant and the neighbor saying at this point that attorneys have been assigned, documents are being
Reviewed.
what's the word?
Reviewed.
Reviewed, thank you, and so there's no decision ultimately yet as to, there's a dispute about really where is the property line for this one. That could ultimately impact where Mr. Meyer would be able to put his shed or how much of a variance he's going to need. So there is no new information. I believe at this point your request is to adjourn to July?
No, it's probably another 6 months.
Oh, another 6 months, that long?
Put it out to October meeting,
Okay,
if that's all right with the
all
board.
right. So with that being said, is there anything else you'd like to add for the summary I gave? No? Okay, so with that being said, are there any questions from board members?
Why is it taking so long? It's been almost on the agenda for almost a year.
It's been more than a
And
year.
2 years now.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
it's been a long time, but,
It's just
Well, they're going through discovery
Process,
and,
yeah.
February 13 of 2013.
yeah.
okay. So I guess,
plus the.
yeah, that 6 months is fine.
But let's give them an appropriate amount of time to resolve the issue,
Fine.
okay?
No
So,
issue.
is there anyone else here to speak for or against the appeal from Mr. Meyer, 4 Spring Meadow Lane, Hopewell Junction, requesting a 45-foot rear line variance? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn this to October?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Did I open that?
No, I don't think so.
All right, let's back up. Hold that motion. I have a motion to open the public, to reopen the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Sorry, folks, it's been a long day already. All right, so we are open. Now, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Through
Aye.
October.
To October. Sorry. All right, let's do better on number 2. So item number 2 is a public hearing, Appeal 3715, Guardian Self-Storage East LLC. Frank Rettel of Guardian Self-Storage East LLC, 929 Route 376, Wappingers Falls, is requesting an interpretation of the section of the code which refers to the allowed uses in the B1 zone Schedule of Bulk Regulations. So this is a public hearing. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Good evening. My name is John Adams. I'm with the firm of Corbley, Gartland, and Rapier. I'm representing the applicant. Before I get into the substance of this appeal, a few procedural things I'd like to run through.
Okay.
First, I have a hearing disability, so you need to, at times, speak up if I look at you with a little
Sure.
quizzical face. It just means that I'm not hearing you clearly. Secondly, this is a matter, in our view, of what we call a pure statutory or legal question. Because it is, we've been engaged in some conversations with the board's legal representatives. Those conversations are incomplete, so that I'm going to ask at the end of my comments that the board adjourn this matter to another meeting to permit completion of those discussions. Now, with that in mind, I'm going to briefly go through the appeal. I've submitted considerable written material, and I don't want to go through all that written material tonight. But for the benefit of the audience, our client operates a self-storage business that was granted the right to undertake that business in around 2006. At that time, a different zoning ordinance was in force.
2006? You said 2006?
At approximately 2000. It was under the prior zoning ordinance for purposes of
Okay.
our discussion. And it was in and continues to be in what we call the B1 zone. The B1 zone is somewhat peculiar in your zoning law because the uses, as we view them in the B1 zone, are sort of generic. They're not specific. And at the time we applied for, client applied for a building permit or for that use, it was deemed to be a permitted use. Now, during the course of our use, we've used a small portion of the area for outside storage. And an issue has arisen through an interpretation by the Assistant Zoning Administrator in which she's indicated outdoor storage is not permitted for a self-storage business in the B1 zone. Our retort is, unless the B1 zone has some provision that says that outside storage is not permitted, which it doesn't, it is permitted. In a self-storage facility, and I've submitted recently, and the board probably hasn't had a chance to look at all the recent material, I've submitted 2 materials that shows that outside storage is a normal part of the self-storage business. And in your zoning law, I would deem it self-storage, outdoor storage as an accessory use to the indoor storage. Accessory uses are permitted in the B1 zone. They were permitted then. Keep in mind, we're operating under the zoning law, the prior zoning law, not the current zoning law, because this activity has been taking place almost since the inception of the business. So it's our position that absent a prohibition of outside storage and given the normal standards of construction that you give to a zoning law, specifically that where there's any ambiguity, it's resolved against the municipality, and if there's any doubt, the doubt is resolved for the benefit of the property owner. It's our position that under the language, outside storage is a permitted accessory use in a self-storage facility. And again, there's more detail in my correspondence, and because we're having ongoing discussions, I'm going to leave my remarks at that point and suggest that we open the meeting to any public comment that might exist.
Okay. There is a question, based on what you just said, there's a question that I've directed our clerk to ask the Deputy Zoning Administrator that I think is going to help the board in its review. What we are asking for at this point with the appeal is an interpretation by this board of a specific section of the code that refers to the uses in the B1 zone, the schedule of bulk regulations as to, and the specific question that you're asking, my sense is whether outdoor storage is allowed.
That's correct. And I'd also add to my comments another rule of what we call statutory construction. In other portions and other zoning districts within the town where the town board did not want to permit outdoor storage, it expressly said no outside storage.
Okay.
And there's a rule of construction that says, well, when you say it there but you don't say it here, it's okay here because you knew you could have said it was not okay here, but you didn't, therefore it's permitted. So that also is part of my construction. And lastly, you cannot interject words into a zoning law that aren't there. That's what we call zoning by implication, and by interjecting the word outside storage in this particular B1 zone where that phrase does not exist, that's not permissible. So we have a lot of complementary arguments for our position that outdoor storage is a permitted accessory use for this self-storage facility in a B1 zone.
Okay, so to start the discussion, and the board hasn't really had any discussion up to this point related to this, but to start and to respond to the specific provision that you just mentioned, I just want to call the board's attention to the section of code 194-16, Schedule of Permitted Uses, and the last... Well, I'll read it. In any district established under Article 3 of this chapter, no building or premises shall be used, and no building group of buildings or part of a building shall be erected, constructed, enlarged, altered, arranged, or designed to be used in whole or in part, except for one or more of the uses set forth in the attached schedule of permitted uses. Only those uses specifically listed as being permitted shall be permitted. Okay, so we're going to start with...
I'm aware of that language, but again, when you have this generic language in the B1 zone, as self-storage is not called out as a separate permitted use in the B1.
So let's address that.
Yeah.
The code does say that when there is ambiguity, when there is something that's not defined, we're supposed to go to the dictionary, okay? We did check Webster's to see was there a definition for self-storage, and there wasn't. So we, agree with you that there in that regard there continued to be a concern. So we went to dictionary.com to look for a definition of self-storage. Okay, that was the second place that we went to. Self-storage, adjective, this is number one, noting or pertaining to a warehouse or other facility that rents units to people for storing personal possessions. Okay, so that would be the definition of self-storage, and I think we also pulled out the definition for outdoor storage, but I'm not seeing it here, but it was something about designated spaces. But so that's just one piece of it, okay? Because if it's not there, we have to refer to the dictionary in terms of understanding that. The property received its first approval in 2000 by the Planning Board for site plan. It then received a subsequent amended site plan approval in 2003. And on that 2003 site plan approval, there was supposed to be a building in the rear that was, the plan is clearly marked storage building, okay? And so part of the site that is now being used for the storage of vehicles is marked where there's supposed to be a building. And the applicant at his initial meeting stated to us that since the beginning he has been using this site for the storage of vehicles. And so we actually pulled out historic aerials to be able to verify was it in fact a use that's been going on for 15 years since the original approval back in 2000. And so the earliest aerial that we could find after 2000 is 2004, and I call the board's attention to this aerial, shows grass. Shows absolutely no storage of vehicles in this area on the site plan, okay, or on the site itself.
When
So
is that
then,
from again?
huh?
When is that from?
2004.
I don't know the history of this. I'm going to let my
We then
client, who's
pulled out the
involved in the
aerial.
application process, address.
Hold it, I'll finish. Go ahead. I'm listening. Go ahead.
We then pulled out the aerial for 2009, okay? And so the aerial for 2009 shows an additional building has now been erected, but again, for the board's edification and understanding, there is no storage of any vehicles in the back here. So as far back as just 6 years ago, there was no storage of vehicles. We did pull out 2014, and that's when a second building has now been erected, and there's now a collection of vehicles that are now being stored on the property. So contrary to what was represented to us when we first heard this, there has not been continuous storage on the site. Now, the other thing...
I need to answer that.
Can I finish?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. The other piece of this is that we actually went and looked at another self-storage facility because part of the representation of the materials that were sent to the board represented that vehicle storage is incidental, that it's pretty regular these days. And so while it is not in East Fishkill, one of the things we did look at is there is an existing storage facility here in town that is allowed to have outdoor storage of vehicles. And so we actually pulled out their site plan, which goes back to 2005. And which is at the time that it finally got approval based on a considerable amount of back and forth with the planning board and the applicant, so that we made sure there was appropriate screening, we made sure there were designated spaces, and so I'll actually give you this, but again, I call attention to the board members within your packets. We gave you a copy of the site plan so that you could see that there were designated spaces with pavement striping, and it clearly is marked on the site plan by the planning board as being uncovered storage area, so that there are specific spaces that the planning board identified on the site plan as being appropriate for use of outdoor vehicle storage. Now, your site plan doesn't have that. So understanding how the planning board operated at the time and subsequent to the time that you got approval for this, your site plan, that does not mention any outdoor storage, we thought it was appropriate for us to take a look at how the planning board was in fact interpreting outdoor storage and when it is allowed, what it should look like, and how it should be represented on the site plan.
Well, I'll tell you, you're absolutely right. We never used that particular area for our outdoor storage. It always lined the perimeter of the fence. So if you're looking at an aerial view in that particular area, it was never clear enough to use it. So typically what
We have your entire site.
Okay. May I first?
Sure. So you can show me in 2004.
Usually they were just parked along here, around maybe these front trees, somewhere up around this fence line. And you're right, that we never used any of this for supply.
Okay, so then let's go to 2009.
Okay.
This is 2014, sorry, you got to go to the middle one.
I don't know, but it's just always been there. They're usually parked up along this way. There was usually a truck in this area. The vehicles that are parked in that area right now were all existing customers. There were not people that came onto the site after we designated it. They were all existing customers.
Okay.
I just thought it was making it neater, and apparently I just drew attention to something that I was just trying to make cleaner and neater.
Okay, you can step back at this point. So the board needs to have a discussion about, and then open it up for public comment about how the interpretation of the code, or how the code should be interpreted, and whether outdoor uses or outdoor storage of vehicles should be allowed within a site plan that didn't call for it, doesn't set it out.
I mean, I saw, actually, I did a site visit on this property also, and I saw that, is this the location that is adjacent to their property? Because there is another set of buildings that have got RVs and other vehicles that are under a shed. Is that your property?
That's Doug Nusser's property, that's not our property.
That's somebody else's property?
Yeah, that's 9D Easy Storage, yep.
Okay, so there is a...
That's the one that is allowed.
Okay,
the
so,
storage.
because I wasn't sure where the property was. I mean, I didn't have the file in front of me, so I did do a site visit, and I saw that the applicant's property had these, cars, as we have mentioned, or vehicles, and then buildings, and there's a property next to the applicant that had open sheds and with RVs and other vehicles parked. And again, I think it's one that we're mentioning, or that you...
Yeah, because this is like a bay area.
Yeah, so there's like a open, I mean, it is a building, it is a storage facility with a covered bay, with a roof, but the rest of it is open so people can, access the vehicles. So from my perspective, it's an applicant's next door neighbor that went through the process and designated to the proper authorities what they were going to use the facility for: outdoor storage, indoor storage, self-storage, etc. And then they were able to get an approval. And this is almost at the same time as the applicant was pursuing their application, and they've been through this, I mean, they've been working with our various governmental entities for the last almost a decade or maybe longer, so they know what the process is. So to me, I mean, our planning board for one applicant, which is next door, is applying a set of criteria, and I think we should apply the same set of criteria to the applicant. I mean, that's,
That's fine.
I mean, the issue becomes if it's, you can just do outside storage wherever it doesn't say you can't under the interpretation. So in any permitted use, if you have a permitted use like a medical offices, they can just store cars and trucks there? Is that your argument?
That any property that doesn't say self-storage or outside storage would be the argument.
I don't know if this is responsive to your question or not. I'll try to answer it, and then I'll come back to me if it's not responsive. I think there's been undue emphasis on the site plan aspect here.
I'm asking a very...
I'm not finished with my comment.
Yeah, but I want to make sure you answer my question.
Yeah.
My question is very simple to your interpretation of how you address the statute. And you're saying, if I understand it, and I'm asking for a further explanation on this, you're saying if it's not specifically excluded, because it was excluded in some areas, then outside storage is permitted. So, if, for example, a medical office is allowed in a B1 zone, is it your argument that they can then do storage of cars and vehicles at a medical office because it's not excluded?
I have self-storage, which is integral. Outdoor self-storage is part and parcel of the self-storage business. We've submitted documents on that. I don't think that's a good analogy because the medical office would not have self-storage as part of its normal activity, at least in a separate structure. Now, they might have a storage shed, and the answer would be yes.
Okay.
Keep in mind, again, my point that where the town board chose to prohibit it in one zone, they had the obligation, if they wanted to prohibit it in the B1 zone.
Well, that's why I'm asking you to explain what your idea is on that further.
So for a lumber yard, for example,
Yeah.
that doesn't specifically exclude it.
Barbara, repeat your question?
Well, a better example, instead of a medical office, is lumber yard. A
Okay.
building material sales yard does not specifically exclude it. Outdoor storage
Okay.
or outside storage. So.
That's what you're
along
suggesting
Jim's- along Jim's
as...
argument.
Okay.
If we're going along this lines of outdoor storage, if it's not specifically excluded, there are a lot of areas where you would find that, and we do regulate it by site plan.
so let me rephrase it, I guess, in a different way. We have got a hardware store up here in our town, and they have storage that, I mean, they have items that come in. So, and they're in a B1 zone. So they have hardware coming in. From your argument, you're saying that they should be allowed to store stuff coming into their hardware store outside because it's not specifically excluded?
Well, it depends on whether or not. Normally, a hardware store wouldn't have outside, well, they might for a tractor or something. But yeah, let's assume they were selling lawn equipment. The answer would be yes.
So basically what you're saying is that according to your interpretation, then it's like whatever, unless it's specifically excluded, anything is included according to your
If
interpretation.
it's incidental and accessory use, keep in mind, we're talking about uses related to the primary use. Now, storage normally for a retail business would be a normal activity because you store an inventory before you stock it in the shelves or something. So the answer is certainly he could store it. The question is, could he, as a normal course, store it outside? Most of his inventory is not something that's susceptible to being stored outside.
Okay. Now, again, as I pointed out, or it was mentioned, because I did a site visit, that why do you think your applicant's neighbor went through the process of getting approval for outdoor storage?
Well, my point is, site plan doesn't govern whether it's permitted or not, the zoning law does. The remedy would be if, in fact, the site plan should be amended to tell the property owner, you got to come in and amend your site plan to accommodate that use. That's the remedy, because the site plan doesn't govern uses. It's the use portion of the zoning law that does it. And quite frankly, as I pointed out in my memo, you probably haven't had a chance to read it, but in my most recent memo to Mr. Wood, your site plan provisions in your prior law are not as sophisticated as they are currently. And there's a lot of wiggle room in there. And simply because it's not shown on the site plan doesn't mean that that activity is not a permitted activity.
Correct. And again, as the chair has already pointed out, that from our records, we have only seen outdoor parking in the last year or two, but not in the last decade or so. So again, we have evidence up here that it was never done from initially when it was set up until recently.
Yeah,
so it's
But you know what, that's just not true. And I'm sorry you can't see those aerials, and part of I was standing here looking and facing live.
Let's speak to the mic.
There's always been.
Folks, we need you to be back at the mic, otherwise the people who are watching at home just...
There's always
won't
been
hear you.
some type of vehicle parking back there. They are not new customers, they were existing customers. We moved the vehicles around and just placed them in order. That, I would never tell you something that was not true.
What type of vehicles are you storing there? I mean, are you
There's some
talking
cars.
RVs? Are you talking, I mean...
There's some cars, there might be a couple RVs, they come and go too.
Well, that's my
So-
question. So if they come and go, I would think that the definition of storage would be that you keep it for a certain allotted amount of time. If these vehicles are coming in one day and leaving 2 days later, I'm not sure that that classifies as storage or...
Well, we have 30-day contracts, and I think a lot of the people that are storing out there might typically be a guy who's a landscaper. He's off during the day. He takes the vehicle and he leaves, and he comes back. He just doesn't have a place to put the vehicle, and his neighbor really doesn't want to look at the vehicle in his front yard.
Right.
So that's a lot of what's back there, too. They're coming and going. Or they've taken their RV out for the month and they're going to bring it back. It's not... They're mobile units. I mean, we've rented to people who, like Central Hudson, who need certain things for snowstorms, or the wellness trucks that go out, and they're not always there, but they need a place to bring them back at night and park them. If I might add one more, I don't want to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
If I might add one more thing, a couple of the items that we did add in your package was a letter from the president of the New York Self-Storage Association, who said this is a very typical accessory use. There aren't that many other places zoned that can help your neighbor get his stuff off the yard, his tow truck, whatever, so that you're not sitting down having dinner looking at somebody's trailer sitting in their front yard. I also included in our package a page on our website that advertises outside storage, as well as another competitor of ours who advertises outside storage. So there are at least two locals. You'll also see a large company in here called CubeSmart, who's one of the largest REITs in the country. I included two REITs. They also advertise outside storage on their website, as well as Extra Space, who's another national company who's right here on Route 9 in Poughkeepsie, but they advertise it on their website. The last thing I included, which you may not understand what it is, I'll do a quick explanation of it. The self-storage industry now is becoming used to aggregators, and to explain what an aggregator is, and I don't mean to talk down to you, but a lot of people just don't know what it is. When you're shopping for a hotel, say in Poughkeepsie, New York, and all of a sudden you see Hotels.com come up, or TripAdvisor, or Priceline, that's what an aggregator is. Right now, the most popular one in the industry is Sparefoot, and I also included a page from their site on here that specifically talks about car storage and how do you find a self-storage facility that would help you park your car and use your car storage. So it's not unusual.
So does your Guardian self-storage facility on Route 9 in Wappingers, does that store vehicles?
I don't have the room there. I think the closest one is Highland, We have a couple of, let me see, Highland, Chester does. It's just, I need to have a place with room. Some of the properties are just not that big. Fishkill, like you know, is a postage stamp. Wappingers is built out. I don't know where to put it, and I've got to be very careful where I put it because the kind of snowstorms that we have, I've got to be able to move the snow someplace anymore. So this allowed us to move things around and still not take up too much room or plow somebody's vehicle in.
Okay, when the planning board approved Hopewell Easy Storage and its outdoor storage, we were extremely conscientious about the impact, visual impact, to the neighboring property, which happened to be town property. And so we went through a lot of trouble to make sure that the fencing was appropriate, was screened, that extra trees were planted, so that the neighbors were not impacted by the visual effect of seeing multiple vehicles out there and RVs and boats and whatever else. I don't see that you've actually addressed this issue.
Well, I
Okay?
think he's got some different, the topography there is very different too, because I think as you come down,
Can you speak into the microphone?
I'm sorry. I think the topography is somewhat different there too, because I think as you're coming down the road, you're actually looking over top of the site. I don't think you can see much of the vehicles from our
Actually,
site.
you can. You can actually see it from Route 376. I do live in the area, so
Okay.
I do drive
I
by
didn't
your
realize, I
site
didn't realize that.
multiple times a week. You can see it from 376. You can see it, it's right behind Happy Hours Daycare. You can see it from the residential if you go in Cambridge Court, that area. So there is an impact to the neighborhood, okay? So, and we did get a verbal complaint that one of your neighbors is the recipient of boxes of, debris from people who are clearing out their storage sheds or garages, their areas there, and dumping it over the fence because there's no dumpster there for them to be able to discard of extra materials.
Well, I really wish that neighbor had said something to me. I would have taken care of it. We've cut down trees off of other people's properties because they've had issues. They just couldn't take care of themselves, and I think we're pretty good neighbors.
Okay, well, I don't know if she's cleaned it up yet from this winter.
Well, I'll go look at it.
But,
I'll take care of it.
It was definitely brought to my attention in the last month that there
Okay.
was probably at least 10 boxes out there of stuff that had
Well,
been
if
thrown
you
over the
you let
fence.
her know how to find me, and we will take care of it.
Okay. So anyway, for the board's
Just
discussion.
one other question. There's a pad there now. As a site plan, was that supposed to be a building?
Yes.
Yes.
So the site plan clearly says storage building. Dozens. But again, we're trying to not be too specific about this site. I just brought to your attention to answer some of the stuff that was presented to the board at the last meeting. So the question for our interpretation at this point is whether uses that are not specifically stated are in fact allowed. Tara, anything you want to offer? If not, we'll open it up for public comment, so. All right, so is there anyone here who wishes to comment on the request for an interpretation of the section of the code which refers to allowed uses in a B1 zone?
Hello, my name's Fred Straub. I read that B1 zone, and it is very generally, it really doesn't address self-storage properly. I wanted to ask just one question. The outside self-storage, do you treat the climate control self-storage differently than the outside self-storage, being that it's in a building?
I'm not sure I'm understanding what you mean.
If you have a climate-controlled self-storage unit,
Yeah.
and it's inside a building, a 3-story, 4-story building, do you treat that in the B1 zoning differently than you do the typical outside storage where you have no heating or no climate control in them?
Okay, we're not going to have 3-story storage here.
No, I understand that. It's just a question in general. Do you
Yeah, that's,
I'm sorry?
I'm not understanding, what do you mean by treating it differently?
Do you treat it as, does it spell it out in B1 zoning that it is more accepted if it's a climate control storage than just a regular self-storage with no climate control?
Self-storage is...
Let me
Does not matter, climate
let me
control or
answer
not,
that.
you don't care.
Let me answer that, because in the planning board, when this was being processed, because we are the zoning board, the applicant says that they're going to have a building, and this is and they basically tell that they're going to have gas, electric, or whatever they're going to have.
What it's going to look like.
What's going to look like. And then as far as the applicant is concerned, whether they have climate control or just nature, or no climate control, that's up to because we are more interested in making sure that we know what the outside is going to look like and how it's going to be placed and where it's going to be placed, things like that. But if they want climate control, that's up to the applicant.
Okay. But in general, B1 zoning it's questionable if you can get self-storage on that.
I mean, we
Is
have
that-
a B1 applicant.
Yeah.
We have an applicant with a
Hold
B1.
on, Mary, would you want to answer that? I don't think it's questionable. A B1, self-storage is allowed in a B1 zone.
I don't think the use even says self-storage, actually.
It's a business use, though.
B1 zone, yes.
Yeah.
Shops for conducting business, but I don't know that actual self-storage building is a listed permitted use for what he's asking.
Okay.
Okay, so if it's not listed, then what is the process of getting it approved in a B1 zoning? That's my question.
Well, it doesn't fall under self-storage facility. We don't have that listed.
Mm-hmm.
I think we put it under stores and shops for conducting business. It's a general umbrella.
Okay, let me ask the question a little differently.
Okay.
If it's under stores and shops for general business, I would say that a climate-controlled self-storage is a store or a shop. You're selling boxes out of there. You're selling different moving materials out of there, whatever. So would you then say that a B1 zoning, because of your definition, that you could put a climate-controlled storage center in? Because it is a store.
Correct.
I don't know why
It is a store. I'm asking that question. Just
that's true. Yes.
That's true. It is a store then.
Exactly.
Okay. That's what I wanted to find out. Thank you very much.
Okay, can we ask you to sign in, please?
Sure.
So we have the minutes accurately reflect your comments. Anyone else? Okay. We have oh, sorry, you're behind the board. I couldn't see you. All of a sudden, I saw feet move.
Hi, my name is Andrew Garcia. I'm one of the property owners across the street from the storage unit,
Okay.
Lake Walton Road. My question is this more or less going to be an expansion, what they're looking to do? Right now, there's a couple hundred feet, I guess, from Lake Walton Road to where the main storage units are at. Yeah, I just wanted to know if there was going to be an expansion that's going to affect my property value, the sightliness of the area. The traffic control that's going to be coming, is there going to be any exits or entrances coming from Lake Walton Road, or is all the accesses going to be from 376 there?
I'm not sure at this point that it's not specific at this point to this site. We use this site as our example, okay? But ultimately, it could be that what the determination may say that they have to go back to the planning board for site plan approval, at which time they might have to do a public hearing if they're amending a site plan.
Which might include the expansions.
Yeah, I mean, there is technically the site next door that is still available that could be used for
Okay.
the self-storage facility to expand, but again, that would be subject to the planning board.
Okay. That's it. Thanks.
Anyone else? If not, we do have a request from the applicant to adjourn this to next month, to keep it open. So do I have a motion from the board to adjourn this to next month?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, we'll see you next month. All right, item number 3 is a public hearing, Appeal 3719 Stelter, Sean Stelter, 19 Canterbury Court, Hopewell Junction, is requesting a variance to build a 1,061 square foot pool house, which exceeds the 350 square feet allowed by Section 194-107D of the zoning ordinance, but is under 750 square feet or 60% of the footprint of his house. was measured to be 2,156 square feet, as well as a 20-foot sideline variance for an existing 12-foot by 24-foot shed, which was granted a 15-foot sideline variance on September 10, 2002. However, the shed was placed closer to the property line. Pursuant to Section 194-107 of the zoning ordinance, do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. All right, Mr. Stelter. Okay, so you came before us, we had a discussion about the pool house that you're looking to add to your pool. It's within the side yard setbacks, it's within your front and rear yard setbacks. The issue is just that it exceeds the 350 square feet that's allowed by code, but the code does actually have a provision that with permission of the zoning board, you can actually go up to the square footage of which equals to up to 60% of the square footage of your house. So it meets the setbacks and where it should be located within your yard is appropriate. It's just the size that this board has to consider. It's
Correct.
not a completely enclosed structure. What you're looking for is partly to be enclosed, but also partly to be just a covered area for seating, for a fire pit, for people to be able to sit
Correct.
and relax and enjoy the outside use of your nearby pool.
Correct.
At the same time, we did discuss the fact that there is a shed on your property, a rather large shed, that would be difficult to move, that when you did come and get a variance before the shed was placed, but ultimately, I guess when it was delivered, it was not necessarily put in the right location, but that it's far enough back within your property that it shouldn't necessarily impact your neighbors, and this did not come to us by the nature of a complaint. So we just wanted to clean it up while we
Sure.
had it. You already have the variance for 15 feet. We just need to add another 5 feet to make sure we're covered with it.
Yep.
Anything else you'd like to add? No?
Nope.
If not, are there any questions or comments from board members?
I'm good.
Okay, so is there anyone here to speak for or against the appeal from Sean Stelter, 19 Canterbury Court, Hopewell Junction, requesting a variance to build a pool house and an additional 5-foot variance for a total of a 20-foot sideline variance for an existing 12-foot by 24-foot shed? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
This is appeal number 3719, applicant is Sean Stelter. Resolution offered by zoning board member Aziz Ahsan, whereas the applicant has applied to the zoning board for a variance to build a 1,061 square foot pool house which exceeds the 350 square foot allowed by section 194-107D of the zoning ordinance, but it is under 750 square feet or 60% of the footprint of the house, 2,156 square feet, as well as a 20-foot sideline variance for an existing 12 feet by 24 feet shed, which was granted a 15-foot sideline variance on September 10, 2002. However, the shed was placed closer to the property line pursuant to section 194-107 of the zoning ordinance, whereas this action is a type 2 action of the seeker and no further action is required, and whereas the legal notice was published in the Southern Duchess News on April 1st, 2015, and whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals held a public hearing on April 14, 2015, and whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals finds that the granting of the variance will not produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or be a detriment to the community, as it will be placed far enough back into the property and in from the sides that it should not disturb the neighbors. Also, it has been designed to encourage a passive recreation use, a changing area, and a seating around a fire pit. The desired result cannot be achieved by some other means. The variance requested is not substantial, as the code allows up to 60% of the footprint of the house with the approval of the ZBA. The proposed area variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood. Now therefore be it resolved that the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby approves the request made by Sean Stelter, 19 Canterbury Court, Hopewell Junction, for a variance to build a 1,061 square foot pool house which exceeds the 350 square feet allowed by the section 194-107D of the zoning ordinance, but is under 750 square feet or 60% of the footprint of the house, 2,156 square feet, as well as a 20-foot sideline variance for an existing 12 feet by 24 feet shed, which was granted a 15-foot sideline variance on September 10, 2002. However, the shed was placed closer to the property line pursuant to Section 194-107 of the zoning ordinance. Be it further resolved that within 5 business days of the adoption of this resolution, the chair or other duly authorized member of the zoning board shall cause a copy of the resolution to be filed with the town clerk and a copy sent to the applicant owner.
Is there a second?
Second.
Votes as follows. Jim?
Aye.
Aziz?
Aye.
Tara?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
And myself, aye, so your motion carries, okay? All right, item number 4, we're now done with public hearings, so there will be no public comment on any other discussions this evening. So our first review, item number 4, Appeal 3716, Three Daughters Holding Company, Lehigh Landscaping. Three Daughters Holding Company, Lehigh Landscaping, 10 Sprout Creek Court, Wappingers Falls, is requesting a 92-foot front line variance for 2 existing concrete storage bins, an existing 18-foot by 13-foot hoop house, and 3 fuel storage tanks, 1 400-gallon gas tank, a 300-gallon diesel tank, and a 300-gallon off-road diesel tank pursuant to Section 194-107 of the zoning ordinance. Is there anyone here from Three Daughters Holding Company? Okay, so Pam, this is now the second meeting that nobody's been here, so we're going to direct you to send a letter to the applicant that, John, we're, at this point,
If they don't show next time, they seem to abandon?
did we already send them?
I don't know if we did.
I sent one that they had to submit what you requested by March 30th.
Okay.
So it wasn't a dead,
And that was the day.
So, yeah, so
after
at this
last
point,
meeting.
they should get the letter that if they don't appear at the next meeting, we're going to consider their application to be deemed abandoned.
I agree.
Okay?
Make a motion that that letter be sent?
Yes, please. Is that a motion?
That's what it's easy to do. I second that motion, if that's what you
All right, all in favor of sending that letter? Thank you. Aye. All right, so item number 5 has been requested by the applicant to be adjourned to the next meeting. I understand he did finally get his survey, but it's only just been delivered, so nobody's had a chance to review it. So item number 6 is Appeal 3718 Hamdi, Rasha A. Hamdi, 17 Prentice Drive, Hopewell Junction, is requesting a 6-foot sideline variance for an existing above-ground pool and a 12-foot sideline variance for an existing pool deck pursuant to Section 194-95 of the zoning ordinance. We did get, where's Mr. Hamdi? Okay, we did get an updated survey from you, okay? So based on and I understand, by the way, that you have now filed with the building department
Yes,
to get your second kitchen covered.
Correct. And actually, I brought the initial listing to show it to you that it was actually, Mr. Meyer was right. The broker did a good job on my parents. So.
Okay. All right, so we brought up a lot of issues last
Yes.
time we saw this. And,
Correct.
And a number of concerns. I do need to ask the question, your original application is not Rasha. We have 2 different names. The application is in one name and our agenda is saying a different name. So who is the actual applicant? Who's the owner of the home?
It's Rasha Hamdi. That's my mother.
So who is Sidurius?
Sidorius is me. There is a power of attorney.
Well, that gives, right, okay. Okay, all right, so but both things should reflect the correct applicant, that's all. Okay, so go ahead, Mr. Hamdi. Based on our last discussion, we raised a number of issues.
Right. I did locate the shed on the site plan, and I did give the dimensions that you requested in the last meeting. Also, additional dimensions that you requested alongside the pool and the existing deck. And also dimensions for the projection on the lower deck. But I brought a photo, if I may just hand it to you.
Sure.
It's how it exists, how it came with the house, and I'm going to leave it up, to your discretion. It looks like a tread rather than it's a deck, but I'll show it to you.
But again, as we discussed, how many feet off the ground is it?
It's 1 foot, but that's how it actually is.
And so that's the deck that's on the side of the home?
Yes, that's the one that's been there since, I think, 73 or...
That's an awfully good condition to have been there for 40 years.
No. It's what you see over there, we flipped the,
2002, they took out a building permit for an as-built. So
right. So they had it for a long time, so when they sold the house, they had to get a permit, I believe, for us, right?
Probably.
Yeah, so the decking area was flipped to get the better side on the, and then it was sanded, really. So I just wanted to bring a picture. Actually, that entire lower deck all the decking was flipped over and it was sanded, just to maintain the...
Can we have this for the file?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so we have to address the area on the side of the house, right? Okay, and so now we have the measurement for that. So the variance needed for this the little deck.
I'm pretty sure that's the way they were drawn in the building permit application.
Oh, okay.
The plans, but when they said that they had 32 feet to the side yard, which is actually the opposite side of the house.
Oh, okay.
Now, when we got to this, I think you should just grant the variance just to clean it up.
Right, but it appears that it's been there since the house was originally constructed. Or at least, well, no, you're right, it wasn't. You're saying it was there for the building permit.
Well, they didn't take out a building permit until 2002 because the search must have shown, I'm assuming that the search showed that there was this deck without a permit.
Okay, all right,
So that's when we were aware of it, but I don't know when it was actually constructed.
okay. So we did talk about the fact that you have a deck around the pool.
Correct.
That's fairly large, and so now you give us the measurements of the deck.
Right, and as you notice, that side of the deck, as I mentioned last time, by the property line, is the 3'10", and the reason why I created that just only for access reasons, and it was not meant to be an access for entertainment or any of that sort.
Okay. I'm still having a hard time on this one. I'm not seeing it. And you know what, by the way, after our meeting, I took a look at the package that you sent us, and I really have to tell you, one of the things that bothers me is that, that it just raises a red flag, is you're telling us that you originally put up a pool, one of those more portable off-the-shelf kinds of pools, back in 2008 to address your mother's health. And you do provide a doctor's note, which, comes from a doctor in Long Island, which is fine, people might travel for their doctors. But this doctor's note is dated in February of 2015.
Because...
It's not dated back in 2008 or 2009, and it doesn't address the fact that she has had the conditions that he's talking about and again, I'm not going to say them in public because that's just not right, but it doesn't say that she's been dealing with these issues for multiple years. And kind of reading through what he's suggesting, he suggests multiple areas of exercise, one of which is swimming and water pedaling, and it's the same kind of benefit that it would benefit me and any other member on
You're
this
absolutely right.
board here.
But
So
initially when they said it, it was the main thing that they suggested, actually. Just because there are additional conditions, which I'm not gonna, but that was the main thing that they actually suggested. That document is dated that date because we had requested for him to do it in writing so we could submit it to you. At the time, it was told to us verbally. So the reason for that date is because we actually contacted the doctor to give us a note.
okay. And so we talked about the fact that in East Fishkill, as in anywhere else in the Hudson Valley, outdoor use of a pool is going to be extremely limited to just a couple months of the year. You did mention that.
Right.
You have some solar
It's off the shelf.
heating apparatus that allows for an extended use of the pool.
Right.
Is the pool open at this point?
You know, this year it has been delayed because of
Okay.
the severe weather that we had. And to be honest with you, I thought my biggest challenge was going to be how I'm going to make that pool operational 9 months of the year. So basically March into December. Right now I can't. It just stays open for 6 months only, sometimes 7 months. I actually thought I would be able, I'm still thinking of how I can make it operational 9 months of the year.
Okay, that's not what you represented to us at the last meeting. At the last meeting, you did specifically say that it was...
6 months.
No, you said it was open 9 months. and
No.
that
We
it
can
was
go
only
6 to
closed for a
7
couple
months.
So, okay, well, I mean, that aside, it's...
No, actually, I'll repeat it to you one more time. I actually said we opened it the last 2 weeks of March, and we close in October. So it's 6 to 7 months.
All right, I have a problem with this, but,
And it's the same problem we keep seeing with the pools.
right. But, you know, other board members are welcome to
Yeah, I mean,
comment here.
you know,
I have a problem also with the safety issues that were
Mhm.
brought up, that it's not
Yeah.
grounded, it wasn't ever inspected,
Right, yeah.
it's not necessarily safe.
The footings
You know.
weren't checked, you know, nothing related to this pool. And again, you're a licensed architect. You really would know better to do that. So there's a lot of safety issues here.
I will definitely move forward with the inspection. I hope you have some faith in me, just only when it comes to electrical decisions. I have 3 cutoff switches, actually, for the way it exists right now. Even if I get it grounded, which actually it was on my list of things to do, I still would like that switch that connects to the wall, which is a grounded outlet, to be disconnected at all times, even if it's grounded, because systems fail, filters fail. So and grounding the pool will be an additional safety issue, but right now I have 3 cutoff switches. And that's always been my strict instruction, no one to be in the pool with any electrical wiring connected to the wall or filters running. Filters run from 11 to 2 to get the heat in before my mother gets in. And actually the routine for that pool is basically once a day, weather permitting, half hour to 45 minutes to get her daily routine, pretty much.
Is your yard fenced? I mean, can neighbors, if you had young children in the area, could they get into the pool?
No, it's an elevated, the entire deck is elevated and has a gate with two latches actually to them. One of them latches automatically once you shut the gate, and then it has a pin to it. Oh, sorry. Has a pin to it that actually shuts it off completely. Nobody can actually access it without removing that pin.
I don't know what additional information at this point we would need. I guess we just need a motion from the board if we want to put this up for public hearing.
well, I mean, I think we have to go forward, but there is no further information. It's a question of what we're going to do with it based on this information.
Just to clear up the deck issue, and if that shed on the other side doesn't meet setback, they're gonna have to...
Oh, okay, yeah, you're right.
Regardless of what happens with the pool.
But the small deck, that's not an issue. Then there's the shed.
No, right, I agree, I agree, it's been there long enough, it's
Yeah, that's minor. I mean,
very minor.
we seem to, well, third time's a charm, right? This is the third pool.
I mean, where's the shed? I don't see a shed. Where is it? Oh, that, okay.
What's the distance to the property line from that shed?
Oh, okay.
He doesn't give it to us. Your service
No, it's
6.5, 6.5.
to the
Property line.
driveway, that's not to the shed.
Not to the property line, it's 6 foot
Yeah,
5 inches.
6.5, yeah.
To the
From the property line to the
driveway, though, is where that, is that to
I think it
the,
goes all
No,
the
that's
way
his
over.
property line.
that's, okay, so that's, no, I understand, but is the 6.5 to the driveway, or is it to this line here?
I see a cross up here.
Okay,
Yeah,
so we'll let it go,
Yeah.
list.
So that would need a variance.
So that's going to need a variance of, well, really, we can only count, we can only count 6 feet, so So we need a 19-foot side yard variance, and what's the size of this shed?
It's 10 by 12.
10 by 12.
Right, okay, so why can't we move a 10-foot by 12-foot shed? Why can't we move it in?
Septic's pretty close.
There's that's the last pipe. Actually, I brought in a picture to show you can I bring it to you? Can I show you that?
Sure. Understood. I get that there's a septic there, but it still appears, if that's 6.5 feet, it appears we could probably move it over another 6 feet before it starts hitting the septic.
Maybe 3.
Maybe 5 feet, whatever, and then it
No, it's
reduces the variance.
what's left is 3 feet to the edge of that septic field.
Again, there's a existing walkway also. But again, is it covered walkway or?
No, that's just pavers.
Okay, okay.
Did you have a picture for us?
Yes.
What is on this side of your property? Are there trees? Is there a fence? Where is your neighbor's home?
The neighbor's room is right there.
Okay, but how far in?
It's about from the property line, they are 25 feet.
Okay, and what, are there trees
Old
along
tree.
here? I don't know that.
Fully. Actually, this one will show you something. See, that's how far the shed is from our driveway.
All right, so you've got pine trees over there that have already matured and,
Yes, we can't see the neighbor's house and we can't see
You-
it. And I already spoke to him actually about this issue because I didn't even know about the setback issue. This 2x4.
okay, but all of this stuff doesn't belong here either. Okay, what is this?
It's a crate.
Is it,
Delivered to us. Some type of panel.
Like a pallet?
It's a pallet.
oh, okay, all right, pallet.
Yeah, so I'm going to break it up.
It's, okay, so it's not a permanent structure?
Oh, no.
Okay,
So the 2x4 is at the center of the last pipe, and then 1.6 over from the 2x4 is still the center field. That's
okay, all right, so, go ahead, take a look at it. So the pipe is the septic field, so
Correct.
he's,
of the last
And,
pipe.
yeah, I mean, again, unless the neighbors complain, I mean, 6.5 feet is enough. So we're going to be adding this variance for approximately 19 feet for the
Yes.
shed.
And then what's the deck?
yeah, what's the,
I think that's approximately 19 feet. So it'll be six up there.
all right. Everybody get a chance to see this, the shed sideline, side yard?
Being that there is no building permit for that pool, I don't advise that it get open.
No, I agree 100%. I strongly discourage you to have your mother go into a pool. That's not,
Well, it's a violation, you can't use it if you don't have a building permit anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Even
that's,
before the board, it stays in all acts, so I don't know if that stays the act can go open the pool without a permit.
well, that issue is not really before us, whether you can use the pool or not. The issue before us is whether you can get a variance for where it was put.
And then we can't grant a building permit if you don't grant a
Yeah,
variance.
so. And quite frankly, you couldn't grant a permit right now if we granted a
Right.
variance because it doesn't have inspections and stuff for the electric.
Well, we have to issue the building permit and then do the inspection.
Yeah,
That's-
well-
But we can't issue the building permit because.
yeah, but you don't even do you don't do the electrical inspection. He's got to get New York State to, yeah.
Yeah, well, my point is, I think it's
Check
been,
with the gate meets the code requirements, and we probably have to dig up some footings and make sure that they put in 42 inches,
Okay.
you know, all that.
and that's gonna be a mess in of itself. How are you gonna meet that deck to figure out whether you're gonna,
The footings were installed correctly.
yeah? It's a
'Cause
mess.
and the footings are in the middle of your septic field.
Well, some of those are, yeah.
All right, what's the pleasure of the board?
I mean, he's entitled to a hearing on it without information we can get on review. So I would make a motion for a public hearing for next month.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we'll see you next month for your public hearing. You need to, Pam will give you your instructions for your sign.
Let me, the motion that was just made includes the two items that we are amending.
Yep.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
So it's a 19-foot sideline for the shed, variance for the shed, and a 6-foot sideline variance for the deck. And Pam, we're going to change the name. Okay. All right,
A 19-foot and a
6. All right, item number 7 is Mr. Correo, who has withdrawn this application. So I need a motion to make a refund of all but $5 of his application fee.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, so item number 6.
Are there any students?
Are there any John Jay students here who
Or any students?
need a form completed? No? Okay.
All those young people, looking at people, that's a compliment, I guess.
All right, item number 8 has been withdrawn from this evening's discussion by the applicant, so we're up to item number 9. Appeal 3723 Woolley, Kelly Woolley, 47 Cherry Lane, Stormville, is requesting a 19-foot sideline variance for a proposed 10-foot by 16-foot shed and an 11-foot sideline variance and 32-foot rear line variance for an existing 18-foot by 20-foot shed pursuant to Section 194-107 of the zoning ordinance. Ms. Woolley, hi. Okay. It's not saying you want a proposed shed and you have one existing shed. Okay,
Nope.
so who put up the existing shed? Let's start with that one.
They're both up.
They're both up.
They're both up.
Okay, who put them up?
One was a company that built sheds.
No.
Oh.
Was it while you owned the property?
Yes.
Okay, so how long have they been on the property?
The smaller shed was just last summer, and the larger shed, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. The smaller shed replaced a wooden shed that's been there since I bought the
Okay,
property.
all right, that's helpful.
And
Did you
probably-
replace it with the same size shed?
no, it's same
Location?
location, except it was, I think, 4 foot longer.
So before it was 10 by 12, and now it's 10 by 16 approximately?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And so that one you said has been there approximately, so that one's just since last year?
2000.
Right, the other one was falling apart, and I just made it bigger to...
And
Bit more.
and the other one was there at the time that you purchased the property?
No.
No. What I'm saying is the one that you replaced, that, the one that was falling apart?
No, when we bought the house, we put it up,
Oh, okay,
but it was a smaller shed.
Okay.
And I guess it didn't need a building permit then.
But
And this one's larger, so
only if it was under 10 foot by 10 foot.
I honestly, I don't know how big
Okay,
it was,
all right.
but I know it was
So
smaller.
the second shed, you see 18 foot by 20 foot shed, how long has that been there?
It says garage on
I'm going to say 3 or 4 years. It does have a garage door, yes,
the rear.
because we do have a
Looks like
vehicle in
there's
it.
2 sheds and a garage on the property.
shed in the middle of the yard is supposed to be removed.
That one's gone. That was gone before, well, as soon as we got the house. It was actually, I guess, like a donkey
All right,
stall
so
or something.
tell it, really go through your application, tell us what you're looking for, why
I'm
do you need the
looking-
sheds?
I'm looking for 2 variances. One for the shed, the smaller shed, because it's close to the property line.
And why can't it be moved?
I mean, I guess I could have somebody come in, and, I mean, you can move a house, but, I mean, I just replaced my shed that was there.
Okay, because I'm trying to understand your application. You have a frame shed which is
The
approximately...
smaller one.
That's what you're calling the smaller one?
Yes.
Then there's a frame shed in the backyard, which you say has been
It-
removed.
That one can't be moved, the bigger one.
Okay, and then you have a one-story metal garage.
Yes, that's the one we're,
So
that's the second
that's
one.
what you're calling as the big shed.
Yes,
So you have a garage, which you are calling a big shed, and something that's next to your house, you're calling the small shed.
yes,
And so
correct.
this other little one that's toward the back of your property, that's gone?
The one in, the one in the middle of my old survey,
Heading back to the garage in the back, this little one here, is this,
okay, this one's being removed in the hot tub.
okay.
Okay.
This is actually this old one.
Oh, just
And it
that,
was
so
just-
just that's being removed, okay.
Right, no, I'm sorry. This was actually that
got me
one,
totally
and it was just dragged down here.
Two down.
Yeah.
It's
You know
okay.
what I mean?
Don't
Like,
worry.
we just dragged it down there when that one was being built, because I didn't think they would come right away. Put it in.
Got
You
it.
can move sheds.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
exactly. Touche. Okay.
When was the house built? You can go back to the,
I don't know, it was before I bought it, maybe in the 50s.
okay, so this shed that will be removed, and you use the pad, was this the original shed from like 30, 40 years ago, or was it in the last 20 years?
Last 20 years, or whenever I bought the house.
No, the reason is because if this shed,
She's already said she put it up herself.
oh, you put it yourself, okay.
Yeah, we,
The house was built in 1970.
Okay.
70?
yeah.
I'm not, I mean, it was before I bought it. It's old.
I'm just curious, why does your driveway go all the way around the left
To
as
get
opposed
to
to just
that-
going straight back?
Well, that's actually a dirt
Yeah,
path, that's to get down to that one.
right.
At the time, my husband and I both have antique cars, and right now, his is still in there,
Okay.
and that's what's in there right now. I used to have one of
Does it
those
slope more
fabric
gently
tents.
on that side or something?
What?
Why does it go around?
yeah,
Oh,
why does it-
because there is a slope, and then there's like a, you can't see it from the back of my yard.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like it goes down, so you don't see
So
any.
it's going around a hill or something?
Yes.
Okay, because it would just make sense to just have it go straight back. You pull in the driveway,
Well,
you
my
just keep
fields are
going.
all there too.
Okay, that's what we figured, there had to be something back there that prohibits, and that is part of your case for your variances, is what else is in your backyard. Okay, so that why, it does, okay, so the topography, really, you can't put the shed on the other side of your yard because you have septic fields there, because you have
Well,
you have a,
I mean, my neighbors aren't here. I have very nice neighbors, but
Okay.
they're not very neat. So it's able to hide their mess,
okay,
and
Oh,
I
on
like
that
to keep
side.
my mess
okay.
neat, so mine fits in the shed.
Okay, which is its general question that we do ask is, what is on your sidelines? How visible is this shed to your neighbors?
That one neighbor, very visible, but, I mean, that's another reason why I replaced the one that was there, because it needed to be replaced,
Make it look nicer.
you know. He looks at the back of it, but I mean, right now, there's no power to that house, and if you saw it, I mean, it's
Okay.
sad, but they're great people, it's just not.
All right, say no more. So because of that dirt road, you really can't move it in a whole lot. You do have a couple trees in the rear yard there. Your neighbor behind you, even their house is pretty close to your property line.
Yes.
Their house is set back quite a bit. So putting in the back actually makes it more visible to that neighbor.
There's a berm put up.
Yeah.
My
On
husband.
your
built
property
a-
or on their property? It looks like it's
It's on my property.
It's on yours, okay, so the property lines are off a little bit from the aerial we have.
We noticed that too when the survey was
Yeah.
done. It's like down on his property where my pegs are.
Oh, okay.
There's kind of an old farmer's rock wall, so I mean, like to
Okay.
us, that was just the property line, even though it's past that.
All right, so in your backyard, you have the pool, and then you have an area to the right there that's probably where you're saying your septic is, your fields are, and then you've got, that appears to have some slope to it.
Yes.
So your ability to put a shed on that side, unless, is it flat back by the garage? Can you put the shed back by the garage?
I mean, I could, but then I'm going to see my neighbor's yard. I mean,
You're using your shed up by the house to screen your neighbor.
because when you sit on my deck on my house, it overlooks his yard.
What's in that shed?
A quad and a lawnmower, like a ride-on.
Yeah, round one tractor type of thing.
Yeah.
Do you have like a pond or like a little man-made pond?
A rubber thing that you set in the front? Why, that needed
No,
a
it's in the
permit?
back.
Oh, in the back, my pool?
No, back toward the garage, like halfway back toward the garage.
No. Pine trees. I don't know what that is.
Trampoline?
Trampoline, I actually have, oh, yes, that's trampoline
Okay.
looking over here, and that's trees.
Because it's a little
dug in
too
the
round.
hole,
Okay.
You know, like level ground.
So you can't
Okay.
fall off it too much? You'll fall off of it not too far.
Oh,
I have a question about, do we want to, is it okay to call this a shed if she's storing a vehicle in it?
No,
Or
then it's
does
a
it have to be a
garage.
garage? Yeah.
What is the size of that garage?
Um,
That's the one that is the
The 18 by 20.
which is, who's got a calculator? Okay, so it's well under the
Yeah, it just
750.
needs-
Okay, so we don't have an issue. That, if you're storing a vehicle in there, it really should be called a garage. Okay,
Okay.
we're not going to call it a shed. And it does meet it falls under the maximum size for a detached garage for what's allowed. So we just have to deal with the location of it. But it appears that because of your septic, well, that's, I think that's too large at
What
this
does
point.
that sit on? It's a metal shed?
It's on cement.
So you have a pad that put
Yeah,
down?
it's a permanent.
Well, originally, that was put up, and then a cement floor was poured underneath
I
it.
understand.
Okay.
We can't just slide the cement pad over 10 feet.
Does your neighbor have any objections to it?
No, that neighbor has several sheds too, including backs of truck bodies that he uses.
You're blocking that view too.
It's always an interesting.
Well, no, I mean, I have pine trees on that side, so you can't see.
Okay, so I'm not seeing any screening on that side, but you're saying there are some trees there?
Yep.
I mean, you kind of see some twigs that are, but, okay, all right, so at least there is some screening. You may want to consider some additional screening back there, but, oh, wait a second, your neighbor behind you is the sheds, or your neighbor, the other side is a whole bunch of sheds?
On the two sides, both sides, each one. And the guy in the back has a little shed. Looks like an old
I
smokehouse.
mean, yeah, there's
coming up
all
on the
sorts of buildings over there.
Yeah, you really don't see the truck.
All right, any concerns for setting this up for public hearing?
No, I don't.
I'm okay.
Motion for public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, we'll see you next month. Pam will give you your instructions for your sign, okay? All right, which brings us to item number 10, Appeal 3724 Curtis. Tim Curtis, 203 Robinson Lane, Wappingers Falls, is requesting a 10-foot sideline variance for existing pool equipment pursuant to Section 194-95 of the zoning ordinance. Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, so I'm going to guess you put your pool in and didn't realize that your pool equipment had to be within the 25
I didn't put it in,
as well.
actually, my builder
Okay.
actually put it in incorrectly. Or actually, he put the pool in correctly back in 2013 in August.
Okay.
As a result, he was under the impression that only the pool had to be 25 feet from the property line.
Okay.
Didn't read the fine print in the permit. As a result, we have an issue now where the equipment pad is only showing to be 17 feet 8 inches from the property line. So rather than add to the huge risk of actually digging it all up and moving it, I'm going for the variance to allow that this is only less than basically 10 feet off of where the property line, where it should have been compared to where the property line is. This pool was put in back in August 2013. I've never heard a concern from any neighbors.
And you
Nobody's-
pulled the permit before you?
Yes,
put
I
the
have it right
pool in?
here. All my documentation's right here. I've actually followed all the processes through the building department. I've been there, several times for Inspections have all been done. I'm looking for my certificate of occupancy, so I can actually, make sure that I have insurance now in the event of any problems. My insurance company, of course, won't pick it up without a CO.
Right.
You also have a shed up there which is only 24.5 feet from the property line.
Yeah, true. That one I actually already have a CO for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was actually
24.4 is
approved
okay.
back in 2005. I believe actually John Hickman was the building inspector at the time, and I have his signature on the CO, so
Okay,
just found
so
it ironic.
if your equipment is 17 feet 8 inches in, you actually don't need 10 feet, he only needs 8 feet.
Yes, correct. 7 feet 4
Correct,
inches.
Mary? Okay. All right, so let's correct that so that,
The shed, the application said that they would maintain a 25-foot setback.
Okay.
So yes, we did get a C for it, but this survey shows.
Right.
That's 6
I just
inches.
thought to clean it up, just.
Yeah, that's fine. We can clean it up, but the main thing here really that I'm more interested in is the variance for the equipment,
So you'll pull the shed in 6 inches, is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't know if I can do that. That actually requires that I actually have to move the entire pad,
Oh.
and I have to move the shed
No,
itself.
you just said you'll clean it up, so I didn't know what you meant by that.
No, I'm not going to clean that up. I mean, I got a CO for that. It was approved. I mean,
No, but
if-
we can clean it up, that's what we're
oh,
trying.
you got, you'll
Yeah.
go right ahead. Knock yourselves out. I'm just saying,
so we need a 1-foot variance for the shed.
what.
Yeah, okay, sorry. I thought you were asking me to clean it up. I
No,
can't do
no, no,
that.
we are trying to bring it to the attention of the board
Yeah.
and clean it up.
Okay,
Okay, so
very
the
good.
question is, what's on the side where your pool equipment is,
Mm-hmm.
how close is it to a neighbor's house, to their back, what's in their backyard, are there trees screening it? The pool equipment is the noisy part of the pool.
It's actually very quiet. You don't even
Is
hear
it?
this thing running. You don't hear it, trust me.
Okay.
So, and like I said,
But-
I've had it in there for a year and a half. Nobody's ever complained. It's a single lady that lives next to me. She has, it's actually in the back of her yard.
Okay.
So it's not like right near her house. It's not near her deck.
Yeah, does she have an outdoor deck or something where
Yeah, she has an
might-
outdoor deck, but it's actually well beyond where that deck exists. So that's why I don't see this as I don't think this is a problem.
Do you have any
We'd appreciate
screening?
it, I'm sorry.
Do you have any screening that you put in?
I have by requirements of the permit, I actually have an iron fence that goes around the pool,
Right.
What
and that
about-
is there, it's been inspected.
No, the screening
What
she
about
means
for
for the
the
equipment.
pool
ID
equipment?
pool
Any
equipment.
bushes, anything?
No, I don't have any landscape around that. I actually try to leave that whole area because I have the view of the pond. It's actually called Misty Lake. We actually like the view, and so I don't actually want to put things back there that are actually going to screen and affect my view.
From your neighbor that would block the view?
No, I don't have anything there now, and I did not plan to put anything there.
Yeah, I don't think we're saying it needs to go behind the pool equipment. We're maybe suggesting maybe on the side, on your neighbor's side, so that,
The problem is I don't have room between where the fence is today and where that equipment pad is.
how about outside
Distance
the
is
fence?
I have about that much room. I can't even fit my lawnmower in between
But
it.
outside the fence?
Outside the fence, I got, from that point, I would say it's got to be a good 10, 12 feet off the property line. I mean,
Right.
in theory, I could,
Yeah,
but
just,
then it affects my view of the lake.
Well, something small,
Well,
just to, a 4-foot little bush or bushes, line of bushes, just to, so they don't see the equipment and they don't hear. It kind of attenuates the noise also.
I mean, the thing is that the noise, you don't hear this thing. It is silent. I've never
why
heard
don't you
it.
take some pictures of this,
Yeah.
take pictures of the equipment.
Mine's loud.
And sort of gives an idea where the house is, so we're not talking about.
I mean, it's been in for a year and a half. I've never heard a complaint.
That doesn't mean
fine.
anything.
Well,
I think we're gonna go to public hearing, but when you come in, bring some pictures, they're worth 1,000 words, give us a better idea of where this is, what you're talking about with the view, and, maybe, something can be done, we'll see what she comes in and says, but the pictures help us a lot.
okay, and if she were not to show up, basically, then she forfeits her right to address the
She won't
board?
have the opportunity to speak, but,
She could send a letter.
yeah, there's different things that could be done, but it's something that we like to take into consideration. Obviously, if there's ways that can ameliorate the problem, it's easier for us to grant you a variance. That's all. And if you're gonna say these are issues, like your view shed going back in the pond or lake or whatever, we need to see that, see what you're talking about. Okay?
Okay.
Barbara? I'm sorry, Tara.
I just wanted to verify, how far off of the property line is the equipment? It's
17 feet 8 inches.
Because there's a 15-foot 5-inch measurement here too, is that?
That may be where
That's part of
that
the
might be for the fence. I don't have a very good, you have a better document, probably, or more clear document than I have,
Okay.
but I believe that's what that
You
is.
have
That's where the fence line is.
Yeah.
You have a concrete patio around the pool?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and the concrete patio is,
That just has to be.
that's what's here on the survey, so that's within the appropriate setbacks? Okay.
And so basically that pond that you're talking about, that you're going to bring pictures of, is within your property actually? And so
Yes.
you don't have any fence or anything? So
No.
you can actually walk into the pond?
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend you do that, but in theory, you could.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah,
theoretically-
I love the view, and that's why I bought the property.
Okay.
So that's, and I built the house on there, or I had my builder build the house on there as part of Creekview Homes. So what I did is I actually don't want to have anything blocking that view of the lake.
Okay.
So you
There's
have
nice
almost
wildlife,
100
everything out
feet
there.
100 feet of the pond is your property, basically?
100 feet out, yes, I own 100 feet into the lake, yeah,
Yeah.
depending on where the water table, where the
What I
line
was
is.
suggesting was just right next to the pad,
So let me approach, I can't see what you're,
just something right in here, just so that, you know, your neighbor doesn't see it. Right.
Right, that's what we're...
It's not blocking your view.
Take some pictures so we have an understanding of what you're arguing. So we can see that, maybe picture from there looking towards your house, and we can see how far back it is. We need some idea of where this exactly is and how it affects your neighbor, and how it affects your view, if that's a concern.
Motion to advertise.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
All right, so we'll see you next month,
okay?
and Pam will give you your instructions for your sign. All right, item number 11, Appeal 3725, I don't want to say this wrong, Leaf? Yes? Okay, thank you. Joel and Janice Leaf, 163 Hillside Lake Road, Wappingers Falls, are requesting a 2-foot variance for a proposed 6-foot vinyl fence, which is approximately 60 feet long, a portion of which is located in front of the rear line of their house along their property line on Hillside Lake Road, pursuant to Section 194-98 of the zoning ordinance.
Okay, before we get started on this, I'd like to amend my motion to include the variance for the shed.
The 1-foot variance for the shed.
Okay.
So,
Second,
second, all in favor of the amendment? Aye, okay, thank you. All right, so if you, this is the first time we're seeing your application, if you don't mind taking us through. Hillside Lake Road, you've been there for,
17 years.
okay, and so, was there a fence there before?
When we first moved in, there were a couple of dilapidated pieces that we took down.
Okay.
that the
Was it a
neighbor-
4-foot
our
fence or a
previous
6-foot
owner.
fence before?
It was a 6-foot wood fence, two
Okay.
sections.
All right, and so where you're proposing, Pam, I need my, yes, now you know why. Thank you. Okay, so explain to us why you're looking for the 6-foot fence.
We sit about 15 feet from Hillside Lake Road. Our house is on a perpendicular to Hillside Lake Road, and
Right.
the traffic volume has increased in the years we've lived there threefold. So it's noisier, and visually you just see cars going by a lot of the day. So we wanted to put a 6-foot fence up to have as a noise abatement, as well as being able to visually block the traffic that goes by.
So you have a lot of trees. Are you looking to put it in closer to the road than the trees or behind the trees?
It's not where any trees, let's see, how can I explain this? The side of our house is here, and the trees stagger like this. The fence would run basically along the trees. The trees would be inside the fence. There wouldn't really be anything between the fence and the girder. There's a big steel, whatever they make girders out of, put there by the town, that runs the good 30 feet in front of our house.
Guide rails?
Guardrails, thank you. Yeah. This
Sometimes
would
you like to say guide
not
rails.
impact those whatsoever.
Could I just say one thing? The house sits about 14 feet from the road.
Yeah, it's very close.
The fence we would like on each side of the house would be approximately 14 feet from the road. It's a little bit different than that. I think the number is 12.
Closer to 15, yeah.
But very close to the distance the house is from the road. We would like the fence to be that far back on each side.
Yeah, but this is...
Are you sure that that's on your property? Oh, yeah, okay.
Yes.
Does the town or the county would own a right of way?
They do. 2.438.
It would be level with our house.
Close to the road.
Yeah.
I'm assuming our house being 15 feet back is on our property.
I got my papers.
It wouldn't be in front of the house. It would be run exactly even with it.
All right, your front of the house is not facing your street.
No, ma'am.
So yours, as you go drive up your driveway, you're
Yeah,
thinking it's in the
that's
front of your house. In our thinking, the front of the house is really along the street.
Okay.
All right, so that's why we
All right,
run
sorry.
along.
Yeah.
We used the same term, but we have different meanings
Okay,
for
I'm
it,
sorry.
okay? How old is this house? How long has this house
Oh,
been here?
it's about 21, 22 years old.
Really?
In its current state, it was built originally, it was a corn crib for the farm across the street that they kept building onto.
Okay,
In its
so it
current
really-
state,
it's
it was
been there-
finished in '94.
So it's been a residence only since 94?
No, it was a smaller residence before that. In its current size and configuration, it was finished in '94 with a second
Right,
level.
but how long do you think the original structure as a residence has been there?
I don't know.
Yeah, because it probably is
Decades.
might even predate zoning altogether, you know, from when this came. So are we suggesting there's a right-of-way there that, and whether,
Out by Hillside Lake Road. If you look at the survey, but you're saying now they want to put it, which would be our side yard, is their front yard. No, because they want to block Hillside Lake Road.
Yeah, this is not a
Yeah,
survey,
no,
this is theirs,
Correct.
this is not a survey, so this is,
This isn't a survey, you don't have this?
well,
No, it's a
we have a
same-
hand, we have a drawing.
There's both.
Correct.
There's a licensed surveyor did this?
That came up at-
Yeah, did a licensed surveyor do
I
this?
believe I might be wrong, but I believe when we bought the house, we were given that.
They're saying that their house is 14 feet back from the road.
Right.
And there's a right-of-way right here.
And there's a
Yeah, well,
picture
that
that you
dotted line
drew.
is, right, Mary?
Yeah, this is what we're talking about.
Go ahead.
And this is the picture that I drew. This explains.
This is the
edge of the road. Does that say 15 feet?
Yes, 15 feet.
What is this like? Utility right away.
Well, that's an easement, right?
I'm saying. But if that's
15 feet
Oh,
from the road.
we can't.
Okay. Okay, but again, you're telling me that it's 15 feet from the road.
That's correct.
Where's your property line? That's what we need to understand. Your,
They have to make sure they keep it on their property.
But you have an
they're saying
easement
there's
up here
an
also.
Utility easement.
You have a utility easement.
The neighbors have, right, running along the edge of our property, have their driveway that goes up.
I know, so it looks like the utility easement runs right up to the house.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you can physically put a
Oh,
fence.
that's underneath there, I'm sorry.
If you
I'm
have-
not sure you can physically put a fence in.
They had, well, they had one there. We had a fence company out too.
See, this
Yeah, but they wouldn't know about the easement. You can't block an easement, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
this is a
Where's the
utility
easement?
easement right here.
Yeah, right here it says utility easement.
So it goes in?
Yeah, it goes in.
Yeah, it goes
Our
literally right to
structure.
your
Right here,
house.
yeah, unfortunately.
So you can't put anything on that.
Can't obstruct
You
it.
can't, yeah, thank you, can't, you obstruct it, you can't block it.
Yeah, because it's,
Right along the road.
Down on this side of the easement.
Can't obstruct it below or above.
Along the house line, if you wanted to just.
But what benefit does it get the house line?
Well, if it
As long
goes,
as
if
it's-
it ends at the house, they can block the side of the house
Right.
directly. They just can't go all the way up. Yeah, I don't know.
Past the house,
Let me
if it's
see.
from each side
Oh,
of the house.
here. Okay.
And if they stay behind the front line, then they don't need an easement, not variance. But I don't know.
because, again,
They're really, they're utility easement to
why
their house.
utility, whatever it says, I mean, so it's like a
Utility
pipe
line.
or something,
Water sewer.
or some kind of a
Right.
some utility has this.
Yeah, Central Hudson probably
Yeah,
has.
they have
a-
some, for some reason, that's why
Electrical
it's,
line.
could be any kind of line, but again, that's
Because it's
the
over
dashed
here,
line.
Yeah,
And it actually comes to the
Right.
front of your house.
yeah.
I'm
Well,
saying.
it appears to be under our house, at our house. That's right.
What is your electric?
That would just be more.
Observe that.
Our electric,
It's just the
Here.
marker.
It could be cable.
Where?
Oh, it's not.
there's a
drainage,
pole right
water.
in this area, and
What's
the
utility?
wires are hooked
Okay.
onto the
Now,
house there.
the wires go from that pole to which direction?
Thank you.
I'm not sure what,
What, do they end here and just go to your house and come along here? Or
no,
do
no, they
keep
don't go
going?
along, there's wires along the road, telephone poles
You're
and
trying to
wires
figure
that
out
go
where
all
the
the way.
electrical line is.
There's a
Okay.
pole right here, and the wires go off of it, feed into our house.
Yeah, that's what it is. See, in the corner here, you have a utility pole with a number that says with electrical meters, or electrical something. So you have Central Hudson, that's their utility
That's their
line.
utility thing.
That's
You
a big
can't
deal.
block that.
That's a
So
See
we
big
would
this?
have to build,
3 times.
No, that's okay, don't worry.
so we would have to do it here.
So
inside
you would
that.
have to do it like here.
Yeah, then
Yeah,
you keep
well, we
seeing the poles.
You have to
yeah.
call people. You have to call and talk about where the location of the easement is.
They might give you permission, yeah. I
You
don't
know,
know.
they want you to call, they encourage you to call.
I would call them first and then figure out.
The utility could be electric, cable, TV, water.
Because we don't even know
sewer,
what they
drainage.
Does your house sit over, is it level with Hillside Lake Road? Is it up a little
At
bit?
this
Is
end
it down a
of
little
this
bit?
level, There's one story level with the road, and then we have 2 stories because the property goes like.
Goes down, so that's, so you're just trying to make your front yard more usable? What are you trying to
And the backyard.
accomplish with the fence?
Cut the noise, because there's windows in the home right here and right here. So you look out that window and you're 15 feet from the road, you can hear and see the traffic. And also, if you sit out on the patio in the backyard, the traffic's right there.
And this is one place where the utility is not going to let you plant trees. Because, so a fence is going to be your only really means of doing this.
Yeah.
But the fence has to be on your property. It can't be on the utility easement.
If we reapply to put it, call them.
Well, you don't have to reapply. We're just going to have you come in and physically
do it.
amend your
15 to
application.
20 feet from the road at least.
But you can actually come to the
Try to
property.
get permission from them to put
Yeah.
a fence there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually,
Yeah, but the easement, the
if they come in,
easement
they'll
dimension
knock
might even be
things down.
longer for construction of the easement, so they might have a problem placing the fence in.
You might want to call Central Hudson, mention there's a utility pole with a number here, ask them about the easement and whether you have the ability to put a fence up.
And the temporary easements could be wider than this.
We can amend to bring it. to
Yeah, just
20 feet or
think
whatever
about
it is
what
outside the
location
road.
makes the most
But you
sense.
should educate yourself. about the
Again,
easement.
one of the things is, it says utility easement, we are assuming it's gas and electric easement. We don't know.
It's a utility pole with
But
the
it
line,
says, yeah.
but the line runs right through
So
here.
we're assuming
So-
it, yeah, utility poles, I mean, they're all.
So it's running right in the middle of it.
Correct, so we do
And
know
then
that it's
until it
Central
runs
Hudson,
off.
but it could be somebody else also.
We'll call them.
Well, yeah, they might be on the pole, so.
Correct.
Right.
So do you schedule this? for-
We don't know what you're asking for yet. We need to be able to tell your neighbors where this fence is going to go.
So can we schedule an opportunity to come before you again for next month?
Oh, yeah, between now and April 25th, whatever information you can get us would be helpful. And then if you're ready to come back in May, we'll just do another discussion like we're doing right now.
You need to be set back for that stone patio also.
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't get to that yet. You have a stone patio in your backyard there?
Yeah.
Or in the front, Mary? Which one?
It's on our backyard. It's in our backyard. I don't know what you consider it from.
Well, because there's a stone patio in the front as well.
The one over here, close to the side yard.
Okay,
The front yard is at the road, doesn't matter which direction the house is facing.
okay,
That's the side.
right. Oh, so it's not a side yard, but is it a front yard setback issue going to be?
No.
It's a side yard.
It's more than 15 feet. Okay, so how far back is the first stone on the stone patio in the rear of your house? From your property line, not from the roadway?
Could I ask you a question?
Yes.
I don't think we understand why you're talking about the stone patio.
Because when we, as you probably heard from previous applications, when we look at your application, we have to look at your entire property to be sure that everything on your property is in compliance.
Oh, the patio has to be
A
15
patio
feet away.
yeah, right.
15 feet away from what?
Your
property
property line.
Oh, yes, it's,
Feet
yeah.
away from
Well, the house itself is about 26.4 feet.
From, well, your property line. The line that divides you and your neighbor. You have
Yes,
a
it
property
is.
line.
It's well more than 15 feet from there.
more than 15 feet away from my
From your
neighbor.
property line.
Distance right here.
From the property
is.
line, whatever your property line.
Okay, can you tell me what's the dimensions of that patio?
I would have to measure it at a rough estimate. It's, the first section is probably 15 by 10.
How far out coming from the house, 10 feet?
It's right against our house.
Right, so
Yeah.
coming out from the house.
It's probably 10 to 15 feet tops.
Okay, the 10 to 15 is going to make a difference.
Oh, okay.
Because according to your measurements, your house is 26.4 feet from your neighbor's side yard.
To here, the shortest point.
Yeah, just, see
Here,
right here, just, see this, it says 26.4 from the neighbor
From
to the
your
edge of.
corner of your house to your neighbor's property line. And in here, you have a stone patio. And so if it's 10 feet, it's okay, because then you still have 16 feet left. It's not going to be over
It's your
20 feet.
property line. I don't know how you define property.
Guys, we can't have two conversations going on. We have to have one conversation.
I just have one quick question for them. To be in compliance, how far does the furthest point of the patio have to be from the property line?
15 feet.
I think we don't have any problem. I think we are more than 15.
Oh, it is more than 15.
Okay, I'm going to have you come up so you can see what we're talking about.
I don't see 15 feet.
I don't see it either. That's why I'm...
I agree, you don't, but...
If this measurement to your property line is 26 feet 4 inches,
Right.
if this patio is more than 11 feet out from your house, you don't have 15 feet.
I understand, but this is the patio.
That's the patio?
This is not a patio. That
This is, it's
wrong.
labeled stone.
I see that.
Stone
I see
patio.
that. It's
Was this
incorrect.
from years ago?
We don't know.
We were given that
Yeah.
17 years
See,
ago when we bought the house.
This might not match reality. This could be,
I think I'm going to go out.
Yeah.
Come see you.
I'm sorry, yeah.
No, I'm right down the road. Don't worry.
Okay.
I'm literally off of Hillside Lake Road, so
15
not to
feet
worry.
away.
I'm going to come and visit your home and
that would-
see,
that
okay? Let's just be clear.
If you took a tape measure,
you have to know where to run.
I don't think,
I don't know where your property line's going to be, though. Unless there's an iron or a monument there, we
Yep.
can't, or a
That's
stake
fine.
or something, we have to be clear where your property line is.
Okay.
But I'll call you and I'll come out.
That'd be fine, we're there. And
Okay.
we'll take some
Are your
measurements
property
too in the
lines marked
meantime.
at all?
It'll
Your
take me
property-
5 minutes to get to you.
Are your
Okay.
property lines marked by either monuments or pipes? Okay.
All right, so we're going to see you guys again next
Okay.
month. In the meantime, I'll call you
Okay.
and,
thank you very much.
so it'll be sometime on a weekend, okay?
That's not a problem.
Have a nice
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item number 12, Appeal 3726. I don't want to say this wrong, Casali? Going once? Uh-oh.
That's, the woman is,
Oh, okay, all right. We actually did get a phone call there. There might be been a medical emergency in this house, so we're gonna, since I'm not seeing anybody responding to it, can I have a
Second call.
second call? Thank you. Second?
Okay?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so let's put this on for second call, just in case. Item number 13, Appeal 3727, Marinucci. Justin and Inez Marinucci for Chestnut Street, Hopewell Junction, are requesting a 24-foot rear line and a 9-foot sideline variance for a proposed 19-foot by 7-foot jungle gym pursuant to Section 194-17 of the zoning ordinance.
Good evening.
Good evening. All right, so first time we're seeing your application. If you could just walk us through it.
Yeah, basically just want, instead of putting the jungle gym in 25 feet away from our property line, just want to put it in more of a corner to leave us more space to do future projects as far as patios, garden, and possibly a pool.
Okay, explain the play equipment.
Oh.
Is it yellow? Is it green? Is it
It's
bright
a-
blue? Is it?
It's a dark southern pine wood from Creative Playthings. It's, to my knowledge, it's one of the best companies that do these type of jungle gym sets, so,
But again, sometimes they have roofs that are yellow, and
no, it's,
and that tends to call attention to
Gotcha.
it, okay?
hence, right, so it's,
The roof is the same wood color or some dark color?
that's correct. The structure is completely wood, and there's no colorful slide. There'll be one green slide, but it will not be visible to the
Green's
road.
okay.
Right.
Green's not yellow.
Green's good, yellow's not good?
Okay.
And there's no swing set, just the,
No, we're opting out of the swing part of it, so it's just pretty much,
Is there something in your rear yard, your septic, whatever it is, why can't it be moved in a little bit?
like I said, just to give us, I mean, it could be moved in maybe a couple extra feet. We just want to give ourselves enough space to do future projects, like I said, whether it be a garden, whether it be a pool and a patio, so on and so forth.
Is your property level?
Yes.
and the property is approximately how many acres?
I think it's about close to an acre, or,
Okay.
Seven two.
I don't, yeah, I'm not an expert on it.
Right there.
No, but that's
No, that's.
This is Four Corners?
Yes.
Okay, all right. They have small lots over there. But that was done as a neighborhood kind of where the smaller lots, people could walk to things.
Yeah, it's
So,
actually,
yeah, so you
it's
got-
actually
you
on
do
the other
smaller
part of Four
lots.
Corners, so the lots are actually a little bigger than the original
Okay.
Four Corners.
But even still, consider this,
Right.
think of this like Worley Homes.
Okay.
Okay? Considering everybody, most other people in town have an acre or two.
Right.
All right?
This is
Consider
not.
this as a different concept. You have a much, much smaller yard.
Okay.
So your ability to put things in your yard is limited, but you don't have septic fields back here. So
No.
you don't have that limitation.
Nothing,
Because
no.
the development was large enough, they had to do a wastewater treatment.
Correct.
plan. Okay. Is your yard fenced in?
Yes, it is.
Okay, all right. So you actually already have a border, something that's already screening this from your neighbors. It looks like immediately behind your property is nothing,
It's
Right, it's not
wooded
built.
area, correct.
but is it just because those lots aren't developed yet?
No, directly behind my house homes will not be built there. That area is untouchable. Left and
Okay.
right of me, though, there will be homes, will be built
Okay,
eventually.
So the area that's behind that will not be touched?
That's correct.
yeah, back here.
Okay, so what is that, will it just remain natural, or?
Yes, it's a natural woods. It's so that,
Conservation easement or something?
I'm not sure if
Open
it's, yeah, I'm not sure if it's
space.
that. It's just,
But again, is it accessible to all the homeowners, or is just, is it a common area, or what is it?
it's not a common area. It's just a wooded area, and I've never seen any homeowner walk into those woods. It's just a wooded area just for the natural look of the development.
So why,
It's not going to be
There's a
that
lot
yard
more.
to be able to, so that's on your survey, it says lot.
yeah, there is a lot number back there.
It is. I mean, it's a good ways away. Since we've moved in,
okay.
and since we moved into the house, we've actually requested trees around our property line from Toll Brothers.
Okay,
Hasn't been granted to us. So, we're still fighting that fight to have trees for some, because my property is almost the center, so everybody that's behind me, it's a
is
circle,
looking in your backyard.
can pretty much, especially in the wintertime when the trees, there's no leaves on it, so it's
Right.
pretty bare.
Obviously, a jungle gym has children playing on it, children make noise, so
Correct.
that's what we have to be concerned about. The closer it is to your neighbor's property, the more they're going to hear the
Understandable.
noise, okay?
Understandable.
And we have had play gyms in here for public comment where it's gotten really heated, okay?
Understandable.
So, people don't want to be looking out their windows at your play equipment. People want to see that your play equipment is where it belongs. So just be careful, be knowledgeable about that when we go into the public hearing. Now,
Correct.
to the extent that you were offering, or you're saying you're discussing with Toll about putting trees in, screening that can absorb some of the noise.
Right.
All the better, okay?
If Tolls does not grant me I will be more than happy to
Let's put a couple
put trees
in.
around my property.
It just,
So,
it would really help your neighbors to understand that
right.
there's some
help
screening.
us, help the neighbors.
The fact
I
that
get
you
it.
already have fence is
Right.
really, already helps you, okay? So that's,
Does the HOA allow for?
Yeah, the
play
HOA
sets?
has actually approved, so they approved my fence and they approved the
do you have
jungle
something
gym.
in writing that says that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. When you get a chance, if you just make a copy of it and give it to Pam,
Sure.
all right, just so we have it for our file. Just, any of your neighbors are allowed to come in and review the file, so you just want them to be able
Understandable.
to see that you have that approval,
Okay.
okay?
And they approved the location and the design and everything?
Yeah, so we sent them the exact like pamphlet from Creative
Okay.
Playthings.
Motion for public hearing or any other questions?
No, so moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, so we'll see you next month for a public hearing.
All right.
Pam will give you your instructions for your sign, and we'll keep our fingers crossed.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 14, Appeal 3728, Earth Angels Veterinary Hospital, Dr. Alexandra Barrientos and Robert Cordicovi, thank you, a veterinary wellness PC, doing business as Earth Angels Veterinary Hospital, are requesting a use variance in order to operate a veterinary hospital at 1 Four Corners Boulevard, Hopewell Junction, which is in an R1 zone. Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, so if you don't mind, first time we're seeing your application, if you could take us through what you are proposing. You are both doctors, veterinary?
No, Dr. Alex is the doctor, and I'm the manager.
Okay, thank you. And so you are, right now, I know you're in, on 376. off of
Correct, on
that-
Nancy Court.
Right, off of that complex. And so you're going to move from there. But the dilemma is that the building that you're proposing to move to is supposed to be available for services for that neighborhood. Again, Four Corners, where we just saw a property owner there looking for something. And so you are proposing a medical use in that facility, which is not allowed by code. So that's why you're here for a use variance. Explain how big is your use, how many animals, do they stay overnight, is there, what do you do?
Well, we're a veterinary hospital. We sometimes, with surgery, have animals that might have to stay overnight. They're monitored. We're also looking to do some boarding facilities as well. The boarding would be pretty much inside boarding. So the activities, most of them would take place inside the building. We also do some retail operations, food, some supplies like that for small animals, by the way. It's dogs and cats. I don't want you to think we're doing horses or anything else.
Hey, there is a need for it, though.
There is.
Not necessarily boarding them, but, you know. Do you do grooming? Do you do, with day use, daycare, doggy daycare, things like
Doggy
that?
daycare, no, we're not really looking to do doggy daycare. Grooming is a nice ancillary part of the business, and
Do you do it now? Or
we really don't do it now because we...
Beyond clipping nails and...
Correct, and you're talking about the bathing and everything, that's something we'd like to add, and space is a consideration where we are now, so that's part of the reason we're looking to move our facilities is to upgrade in terms of space as well.
Okay. Part of the difficulty in getting a use variance is you're supposed to show that it's an economic hardship and the landlord or the property owner hasn't been able to, oh, he's here, thank you, that helps.
He's here.
Hasn't been able to lease the space for any other use. So why don't we have you guys just step aside for a minute and let's hear from, what the issues are related to this space.
Hi, Rich Mancuso, 1 Four Corners, one of the owners.
Thank you.
The concept, when it first came out, was great. It works in places like Texas where you have a couple thousand homes that support a retail component. It unfortunately doesn't work, in any of WCI's communities that they did back here.
Okay.
They did one in Danbury. They proposed the same thing. Toll Brothers has bought that community. Toll Brothers will do anything to get out of building a retail. They're selling homes, probably have a couple 300 sold over there. It's still not enough support. Over there it's much larger. Over there it's somewhere around 24,000 square feet. We've had the property 5 years. We've had one user, lasted about 3 months.
What kind of user was it?
It was more or less a second-hand type shop.
Like a consignment shop?
Yeah, and
Okay.
it lasted 3 months. And
So there's no interest by a deli, a
Not a
bodega, some kind of...
Well, we came in years
dry
ago.
cleaners?
We came in years ago with the restaurant.
There was a dry cleaner? Okay.
Well, that was before we bought it. And I
okay.
think that was a WCI giveaway, free rent, set up your shop, and they didn't survive.
Okay.
We came in with the use for a restaurant,
Yeah.
but the understanding was People were concerned about hours of operation, worried about a bar, alcohol service, those type of things, and as soon as that started, they went away. Unfortunately, a restaurant doesn't want to be told, you got to shut at 9, you can't sell wine, you can't do this. So we've tried everything, and we've had nothing. We came in and we applied to convert it to condos and apartments. The HOA did not want that.
Who owns this? It's owned by its own LLC?
We have an LLC that owns it. It's separate from the HOA.
So it was never intended to be a part of the HOA?
At one point in time, WCI had it folded in to the HOA.
Okay.
The only way we were going to buy it was if it was not part of the HOA, because it doesn't make sense to pay common fees on a retail building.
Got it, okay.
To the HOA.
But only when the HOA starts to lose money on it, do they
it's right now.
get vested in what happens there?
Well, right now it costs the HOA nothing, as far as, it's not their problem, it's our problem. So for 5 years we've owned it. For 5 years we've had no interest other than the one restaurant and the veterinary hospital. We thought residential might be a good fit for the neighborhood, turning into 8 apartments, 10 apartments. They didn't want that. Talked to them about condos. They were really not interested in that because they're worried about their home values.
Okay.
I don't see a bagel shop, any of those things coming here.
Right.
And unfortunately, it's just not what it was.
I mean, just someplace to get a gallon of milk, you know what I mean? That's
Unless you own the shop and you're losing money every month, and then you won't be there that long. And it's unfortunate. But there's not enough critical mass to support a retail component.
Are all those lots over there sold yet or not yet? No, actually, our last one still had empty lots around them.
No, I don't think they're selling them at the pace they would like to sell them.
What's the neighboring buildings to this lot?
Across the way is the clubhouse.
Okay.
So it's a
With the
boulevard.
play equipment
Yeah, it's a boulevard access. The play equipment is on the far side of it. On the back side, there's just, a street, and then a house across. And then if you look at the site plan, up towards that street is a home, kind of sits parallel to the parking lot. So next to the building itself, there's not another house or anybody sitting adjacent to the property. The lot is roughly 1.5 acres, I believe.
Is it just not developed yet, that lot, or is it,
it's
permanent open space?
No, the lot that the property sits on is about 1.5 acres, so it's bigger than.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay.
There's 80 parking spaces, I believe.
Okay.
So if the vet hospital goes in there, the parking lot is way oversized, for what, you're not going to have 80 cars there. And there's a grass area out to the side, so they could walk their dogs, and there's not a house adjacent to it or any of that.
Okay.
It's a great building. It's sitting empty.
Sorry, would this take up the entire space?
I think I can't speak for them.
Yeah, that's probably better addressed to the applicant. Any other questions for the owner of the property?
If I remember correctly, the dry cleaner was on one side and the shops were on the other side. So which property are we talking about?
It's the whole building.
Okay.
So the dry cleaner was where you came into the parking lot area.
Okay.
The other site is unfinished.
Okay.
So that is the only space that is fully sheetrocked out. We've had it out there for lease at $9 a foot.
Wow.
And $9 a foot is gross. It's not,
Right.
it's not every month you're paying $9 a foot. And then it's a matter of, what kind of build out do you want? So we would finish the space, sheetrock plugs, electrical, and there's probably about a $3.50 cam charge, which is the common space and those type of things.
Right.
So you're probably looking at a $14 gross rent. Nothing. It's just, there's been no interest. And we've canvassed everybody.
Okay.
So
There's just not enough mans.
just not there. No demand.
Okay.
So.
All right, I think, any other questions for the owner? If not, let's get the applicant to come back up. And I think what you're going to have your biggest concern about when we open this up for public hearing with the neighbors is barking dogs. Neighbors are not going to want to hear barking dogs that they can't control, okay? And it's natural, dogs bark. So, and
you're going to have dogs there, if you're going to be boarding the dogs, I can't imagine they're going to be there for a week and you're not going to take them outside.
Yeah, that sort of put me back a little bit. I've been sitting on the board for a while, and I've had 2 situations where the kennels became an issue.
Okay, and this is not a typical kennel, like I said. Most of the boarding is going to be done inside. We'd have a large area for play and activities, and of course, you do need to take an animal outside. The dog needs to be walked, get some fresh air and relieved. This is not going to be a situation where you're going to be getting 6, 8, 10 dogs unattended outside. Every time a dog will be taken outside, it will be walked on a leash. It's going to be, so it's going to be akin to an owner walking their dog. I've been at the property a couple of times, and it actually made me happy. One point, I must have been there a half hour. I'd say at least a half dozen owners came by with their dogs, and they were barking, by the way, too. But there is a lot of pet owners in the area. But this is not going to be a situation where you're going to be getting pretty much a pen outside where the dogs are going to be left to their own devices.
Well, I don't think any.
Well, we've had that was an argument raised in one of the cases that they would be
unattended.
They would be inside.
Oh.
Correct.
Neighbors got upset, but I'm just saying that. I don't know what the reaction is going to be to your neighbors. I mean, I think the caution is you're going to have to be pretty clear on how many animals you're talking about and what you're going to do to control the noise, and because that can be addressed in different ways, but that's got to be part of your plan, I think, if you're going to argue.
Right, it is a part of our plan in the sense that where we are now, we do have a home right behind us in our current location. And we worked with a company that built out our initial practice, and it's been 5 years. We've grown, we're ready to move on. Noise control has been always an issue. We abut another business, and we just basically have a wall. It's one big building, and we're in half of it, you might say, or a little less. So noise control has always been what we've been working on. So the way that we're different from the boarding that we've seen throughout is that we're not building kennels that feed outside. We are not, bringing in a huge number of dogs that are going to be caged one on top of another. Our model for how we're going to board animals is a little bit different. They're going to be in what we call mini rooms or mini bedrooms. Everything's going to be indoors. The building is, 9,000 square feet. It's a big building, and we're putting one business in there, and we have the, obviously, veterinary medicine part, but the boarding part, how we're going to do it different than it's been done, at least up here, from what I've seen. We're bringing models from New York City and whatnot, where noise is a concern and space is a huge issue, so you don't build out, you build up. And the way you handle that is by the way you build, how you do your sound control from, basically an architectural point of view up. So noise control is important. We're going to be boarding cats. Now, nobody worries too much about cats because cats are quiet and, they kind of sit in one area. But we cannot have our cats be upset by the dogs. So, we have our builder here and so on and so forth if you guys have specific questions, or like you said, you need to have that planned out when we have we present this to an open forum. We have spoken about that and addressed that. A lot of our playtime, because the winters here are pretty brutal, particularly with small dogs, will be indoors. And that's where noise control becomes a bit more manageable. And as far as the outside kenneling, and that was another thing we were concerned about, we're not going to have kennels or cages, which is what an original kennel used to be like. You have a wall with a door, and then the dog comes out and barks and so on and so forth, and is in that area. They're going to be indoors, and they're going to be walked individually out and played with, so there's not going to be the dog-on-dog barking and all that other stuff. So we're going to work on that.
I want to make another point here, too, that the main reason we're there is really as a veterinary hospital. I mean, that's our main business. We're a medicinal facility. The boarding is an ancillary business, but the main reason is we're a veterinary hospital, and we also like that area because, believe it or not, that area is actually underserved in terms of access to veterinary hospitals. I believe the next town over even has ordinances. I don't know how old they are, but there are no veterinary hospitals there, so you have to go out quite a distance. Continuing in that direction to find a veterinary hospital, you have to head back toward Hopewell. So I just wanted to let everybody know that our main reason is we are a veterinary facility.
Okay, But let's touch on that for a bit. You're going to have equipment there, x-ray equipment, you're going to have medications and medical waste and things of that nature, which again is not generally even allowed in the business zone. It's got to, or you have to have an area that specifically allows the medical use because of the special nature of the equipment and x-rays and things of that sort. So you do expect you're going to be doing surgery there, you're going to be, it's a real medical facility as opposed to what's allowed there is services, personal services. So it's kind of barking dogs is one issue, medical use and its ancillary, yes.
I do believe there was a certain amount of
Come to the microphone, please.
I do believe within the zoning there was a professional office use also, which doctors would have fallen under.
No, not professional office.
Okay.
Doctors are specifically a medical use. Okay?
Nice try. Yeah, I'm sort of thinking, on one hand, I'm thinking along, the chairperson's comments, the other hand, I'm thinking you walk the dog and all these dog owners are there, so you're sort of serving the homeowners association.
Right.
It's going to be something for us to really think about and ponder as to whether you're going to get to the point you want to get to.
There's no other locations in town that are suitable?
We are looking at another location, but to be honest with you, there's not all that many. I know some people have maybe suggested finding a doctor's office that's been abandoned, and it's not so easy to do because we're not a human facility, and everything we do is we custom build to our own needs and specifications. So there's not that much out there, and you're also limited in terms of how far you can go. I mean, we have a nice client base right here in East Fishkill right now. We've been here since November of '09, so it's not like we can pick up and just go elsewhere. So you're also confined geographically too.
I have a question for the owner. It says up here, demolition plan. What does that mean? And is this the village store that we're talking about?
I'm not sure which plan you're looking at.
You can come and look at it. This is the Four Corner Village store. Okay.
That's an old plan. That was something that we submitted.
Okay. And then it says a demolition plan, and then the existing condition. And so I'm trying to figure out, and I don't even understand what's going on up here.
That was a plan that we had submitted for a restaurant they wanted to do. That was not allowed.
Well, yeah, the seating's all there for a restaurant.
Okay, because I was just trying to figure out what because I'm looking at this package and it really doesn't tell me what's going on.
That's a totally separate plan that we submitted 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Okay.
And,
So it's the same location that it's referred to here as...
It's the same building.
Same building, the village store.
The building's up and sitting there, it's not sheetrock for 3/4 of the building inside.
So you got a shell, basically.
Got shell, got, all the HVAC's in, all the electrical's in, it's a matter of when you move the plugs, how many lights, and, insulate.
Yeah, can you just go to the mic so people can see? So basically, it's a village store that's vacant right now, which is what you're planning to make it into
No,
a...
the village store is vacant. The space next to it's vacant and unfinished. The space where the consignment shop is vacant, and upstairs is vacant. There's 2 offices upstairs, both are vacant. The entire building's vacant.
And they plan on taking
The entire building.
the whole thing.
Correct.
That would be good for you.
To support a use variance.
There's no good coming out of this for us.
To support a use variance, it has to be clear the economic hardship and your inability to lease the space. I'm not seeing anything in their package. Could you put something in writing demonstrating the economic hardship, by you and the other owners or whatever by the LLC about your past experience, your efforts to lease it? Because without that, I don't see how we can even get a whole lot further.
The cases say you should show dollar and cents proof.
Yeah, we really need,
Dollar and cents proof.
No problem.
can't have too many conversations. We really need some kind of documentation, some kind of, that speaks to your losses and,
Showing the economic impact to us is not hard.
okay, well, it's important. Okay?
Okay, are we going to discuss it further or review it or public hearing?
What do you think, John?
So he needs to just 4 questions very specifically.
There's an email where he responded to.
Property owner.
Questions one?
Oh, yeah, you didn't even finish the application.
That's what needs to be.
Page 2 of the application is for a use variance.
Correct.
There's 4 questions here you haven't even answered.
That's what I was saying.
We did. There were.
in an email.
Oh, that's what's in the
There's an
email.
At the bottom of the page is an email.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mary, do you have the email?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
That's
kinda
the one from
separated.
Bob Gleason.
But that's, question 1, the property has been marketed, that doesn't.
Yeah,
We need more than that. Okay.
Expenditures, who's looked at it.
Do you have what what Bob Gleason submitted? Okay.
It's a pretty high hurdle, so you gotta really put some good stuff there.
Did you read this, Brian?
Just that we market it, and nobody answered, it's not very good.
He just paid a tax bill. It should be pretty easy. Yes. Just, yeah. All right. Do we have that come in under the context of a public hearing, John?
Yeah, you can do that, and if it was deficient public hearing, just adjourn the public hearing, gather.
Okay, so motion to advertise.
Well, again, we don't know, okay, yeah,
use
okay,
variance,
okay,
yeah.
fine. Okay, motion to advertise.
Let's have it come in the context of the
Okay,
hearing.
motion to advertise.
Second?
Yes, second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, so Pam will give you your information for your sign.
512.
They're going to put this on that building, right? Not on their current property?
Correct.
Because the
No, you
use
can-
variance is associated with the property at Four Corners.
Correct.
Okay. Just making sure. Okay, so Pam will give you your information for your sign. And then we will see you next month. And in the meantime, get us what you can, all right? It's a tough standard to get to. All right, item number 15, Appeal 3469, Broderson, Gary Broderson, 65 Ritter Road, Stormville.
Norma, I'm sorry. It's a corner lot. Should they get
They need 2 signs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, they are, so.
Okay.
I just want to make sure, sorry.
Yep. All right, so Mr. Broderson was granted a special permit for an accessory professional use, a music studio to be located in his house on October 12, 2010. It was renewed on November 14, 2012 for a period of 2 years, and he is now before the board requesting a 2-year renewal of the said special permit pursuant to Section 194-90 of the zoning ordinance. Good evening.
How you doing?
So you are continuing to offer piano lessons and music lessons. You've got multiple instruments that you give lessons for in your home.
Right. I called to renew before November, and they told me I needed $500 escrow to do that.
Okay.
And usually during the holidays, students don't come for the holidays.
Okay.
So I figured I'd renew it after the holidays. But what happened at that point is I needed some surgery, so then I went into an 8-week rest period.
Okay.
So, and then the crazy weather, where everything just froze. No one would come for lessons at that point anyway. So I'm looking to renew the permit at this point.
Okay. Any difficulties with your neighbors
Not that I'm aware of.
in the meantime, since we last, we were supportive of your, ability to do lessons there. There was concern about parking on the street and, cars lingering in the neighborhood and how many students you had. There's no overlapping of students.
No.
You were only offering lessons on certain days of the week, if I remember correctly, that schedule continues?
Yeah, it's kind of the same. I have it with me if you want to.
Okay, no, it would be helpful if we had it again as part of your application. I have your thing here, let me just take a quick look. Okay, yeah, you have the schedule here, so that's fine.
This is going to relate back to November 14th, if we give it.
Yes, it is, it's going to be retroactive. You don't want it, you're not going to start a permit, you don't want us to start the whole process all over again.
No, God, no.
No, so you're better off sticking with a renewal. The renewal does go back to November, well, it goes back to October, actually.
His first approval was in October.
Yeah, so it's going to go back to the date of
First
October.
approval was October 12, 2010.
October 2010.
Yeah,
Go
just
ahead.
making it clear to Mr. Broderson that he said he'd come in now, that it'll be 2 years from October of last year.
All right, so no issues with neighbors?
No.
Okay. Just warning for us, that's all.
Oh, yeah, well.
All right,
Be prepared. What can I say? I don't know. I haven't heard anything. I haven't seen or heard any problem.
fine. Motion to advertise?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. All right, we'll see you next month for the public hearing. Okay? Pam will give you your information about your sign.
You have a second call?
No, we have one more thing.
Oh, yeah,
here.
that's one, next page, yeah.
All right, and our last item of the agenda, before we do the second call, it's number 16, lead agency circulation, Stewart Shops Corp. The East Fishkill Zoning Board has received notice of intent to declare lead agency from the East Fishkill Planning Board for a proposed 3,975 square foot convenience store with self-serve gasoline and the installation of a road extending Fishkill Hook Road to an intersection with Route 52. The planning board is proposing to be lead agency for all aspects of doing a coordinated review. We will have our specific variances to review related to this, but otherwise, is there any objection to the planning board serving as lead agency?
I will.
Let them have it.
Yeah, well, no objection, and actually, I think I know we have some letters here suggesting that since it was before the zoning board before, there's really no continuity in the members, but I think looking at it as part of a site plan makes a lot more sense than just as part of the variance, so I think it's better that they have it, yes.
Okay, so do I have a motion to respond as such to the planning board?
Yeah, respond favorably to the request, yes.
Second.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Pam, you'll direct that back to the planning
Do you
board?
want to sign the, I have the form.
Okay, I'll sign it
Do you want
when we're done.
okay.
That's fine. So then we have to go back to the one item where somebody was not here. Is Mrs. Casale here at this point, right? That's the one that, Catherine Casale? No.
Medical emergency?
Okay, so with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Good.